what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of In the Heyday. I'm your host, Oliver Hayes with Bus Stampede, and I'm back after attending the first of 10 practices that the Crawford men's basketball team will have ahead of their trip to Australia. If you didn't know, every men's basketball program, at least the Division 1 level, gets an overseas trip every 4 years. So Colorado, has been taking theirs ever since that was implemented, and the last one they went on was to Costa Rica, and that was when they had Jabari Walker. He broke a backboard, which was the notable story from back then. But this year they're going to Australia. Like I said, they're going down under, which will be cool for Nate Tomlinson, the new new assistant hire, I guess, because this is his second stint in Boulder on Tad Boyle's bench. But he's from Australia, so that would be cool for him. But the competition is supposed to be much better than Costa Rica. At least Tad Boyle expects it to be. So exciting to see the Buffs get put to the test. But Banga Dak will not be going on the trip because he is injured. I found out a little bit more about what he was injured with after attending practice on Wednesday, seeing that first practice. I'll get into that a little bit more later in the episode. Same thing with the non-conference schedule and mailbag questions. I think I got 5 of those. But obviously the big thing is my first impressions from the first day of practices. The first day was Wednesday. So I've had a few days to think about things and, potentially forget stuff too, I guess, because this is a Friday, even though this episode should be released on a Saturday. But yeah, I don't know. I wasn't able to gather too much of the individuals because they weren't doing individual drills. They weren't shooting, working on pick and rolls and things like that. They were working on defense, installing offense, then ran up and down playing 5v5. So it was more so gauging matchups and understanding a little bit of the rotation and where guys are going to play at a little bit more. So that was definitely interesting, but it was a little disappointing to not get as much of a feel for the individual player and kind of how talented they are, just because the freshmen were still trying to implement themselves a little bit. Everyone's still trying to learn how to play with each other and things of that nature. And Tad, I like Tad's coaching style. I actually have a question talking about his coaching style a little bit later as part of the mailbag, but I'm assuming every coach does this at the college level, at least to some extent. But he's a guy who stops play a lot, and so there's a lot of talking, a lot of instructing, especially at this time of year. And so guys are definitely getting better, but there's a lot of learning. So I know that guys are getting up shots outside of these open practices. There's a lot of individual work that's been echoed throughout every player that I've talked to, every time I've talked to Tad so far. Guys are putting in the work. But my first impressions, because I've kind of been beating around the bush, is that this team is obviously very raw at the moment. They're getting used to things. The freshmen are still trying to find their footing a little bit. You can tell that even just in talking to one of them, like I talked to Jalen Holland after practice, that he's still just kind of trying to get used to the scene a little bit, taking just how nice the facilities are and things like that. The fact that they have so many coaches and all the resources that they have, and the fact that all these freshmen are playing Big 12 caliber Division 1 players and not high school athletes anymore, which is obviously a big difference. And so there was a little bit of that. Obviously, even though there's 5 returners from last season, Bangot wasn't out there, who's expected to be a big part of next year's team, if not the biggest part. And metaphorically and physically as well, but either way, he wasn't out there, so a little harder to gauge necessarily what some of the matchups would be, because where Ranchik would probably be going against Bangot or something of the nature, he was matched up with Nick Randall. So and that was another thing. John Manny and Isaiah Johnson were not there. Their school years are going a little bit later. So I think both of them are expected to go on the trip to Australia, but not with the team yet. So I wasn't able to gauge them. But yeah, overall the team kind of raw, missing some pieces, and the freshmen getting used to things. But the big thing that I saw was Bington Harris, in my opinion. He's as good as advertised, and so I guess that'll bring me to just talking about him and the transfers. Obviously, John Manning wasn't there, like I just said, but Barrington just as good as advertised. He was able to get downhill for the most part, and it was fun because with him I was able to see Josiah Sanders matched up against him on the other side. So I think both those guys will be taking over the point guard position this year. Obviously, we expected that with Barrington, and I expected that with Josiah, knowing that he's been ball dominant and been the primary ball handler in high school and in AAU and things. the past few years. So I kind of expected that, but it was cool to see them actually match up and see things. I think that Barrington will have a really will have an easier job, in fact, shooting the ball. I think he will have more catch and shoot opportunities. He had a few just seeing them practice going up and down, and his jump shot is smooth. And I think that with these catch and shoot opportunities, he will raise his 3-point percentage. He won't have to take as many off the dribble shots, and I think when he does, he'll be able to get downhill. And one thing that I did notice is that he wasn't necessarily scoring as much around the rim, but he's initiating offense. He's initiating action and getting defenders to move and to getting the ball to move around the perimeter. So I think that would be a big thing, even if he's not necessarily getting a basket or getting an assist necessarily. He's going to get the offense moving, which I thought was impressive to see from him, and was definitely the biggest thing that I saw of any player across the board. But looking at the returners, obviously Sebastian Rancic is the guy that we've all been looking at, knowing that Bangot Dak is injured. And Rancic was solid. He's still he didn't take too many 3-point shots. I know that's still his jumper is still a work in progress like a lot of these guys, but the inside scoring is still just as solid, still aggressive, driving the ball. But like I said earlier, with no Bangot matched up with Nick Randall, who I thought was, obviously people aren't thinking that Nick Randall's going to play. I don't think he'll play much, play at all, except for the blow, the handful of blowouts that garner. So the walk-on type of players, the 14th, 15th guy on the bench to get in the game. But just seeing him improve from last year, he seems a little more comfortable. So even though not the caliber of player that Sebi would be going up if he was playing Bangot, someone solid, a big bodied Randall's 6'7", I think, 6'8", some of the sort, is decently athletic. If you've been around Colorado, I didn't see Randall play in high school, but I know some of you guys listening probably have. He was all right, holding his own a little bit, but Rancic was able to score pretty much at will. And then Elijah Malone was matched up with Taco Fawaz, and that was fun seeing those two battle. Just because Fawaz is a very energetic guy. He has the motor that everyone has talked about. That I've talked about, that we've seen in his highlight tapes from high school and things like that. And I'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, I thought Elijah was much better. He tried to take a few more jump shots. I know that is going to be emphasized for him as well as everyone else this year, but he just looks a lot more comfortable as far as just handling the pressure, trying to throw some passes, feeling himself out a little bit more, not rushing things. I don't think he'll have as many turnovers and things like that. And he does look a little bit slimmer. Still obviously a very big dude, but he looked like he was moving a lot better. I thought he was moving better towards the end of last year. But definitely was getting up and down the court, and Taco's making him work. So, even though he's not fighting with Bangot like he was last year, which was very interesting to watch, seeing them be the two opposite ends of the spectrum in frames. But very fun to see him battle with Taco, and I think he's not going to make a huge leap, but I think he'll be definitely a lot more serviceable than he was last year when it comes to conference play. And when thinking of the non-conference schedule, even though that did get a little bit stronger than last year, when thinking of his UNC performance and things like that, I think that would be fun to see him working the post, and also see if he can hit the mid range, hit the 3-pointer, and see if he can make some more of those fun passes that he only threw a little bit last year. But anyways, moving on to the freshmen. I wish I had highlights of them. I really just have the high school tapes, but I talked a little bit about Josiah at the point guard position. I think he's going to be the backup point guard. I'm assuming he probably wouldn't start alongside Hargris just because they'll need another bench ball handler who I think will be Josiah. Excuse me. He's strong. You can tell that in the videos, just watching him, that he's strong, but you can tell that watching him in person as well, and it didn't waver against Big 12 competition. I know Hargris is a little bit on the smaller side, being a few inches shorter, but I didn't think it really mattered too much for Josiah, no matter who he matched up against, as far as being comfortable with the ball. I know him and the other freshmen, at least between him and the freshmen that have the ball in their hands a little bit more, Ian Inman and Jalen Holland, they struggle with turnovers a little bit, just trying to get used to the offense and getting used to playing against college players. But of the three, I thought Josiah looked the most comfortable in having the ball in his hands as much as he did. He threw some great passes, as we just saw. I mean, part of that was because I saw the YouTube video and was reminded of it. But that was the big thing that he did instead of overscoring was find some drop-off passes. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Taco was the big man on his team, and he was finding them a decent amount. So that was great to see. And then moving to Jalen Holland and Ian Inman, they didn't have as much time to show out playing off the ball, and because they were just running through offense, defense, got up and down the floor and things like that, and I wasn't able to see them just individually shoot and things like that. I couldn't necessarily pick up as much on those two, but I remember Holland took a few jump shots, not the prettiest form, I would necessarily say. It seems to start low, and he shoots it from the top of his head a little bit, but definitely not the ugliest thing I've seen either. It's a fine jump shot. He hit at least one jumper, so I think he'll be solid, but he's just as strong as Josiah, it seems, so I'm excited to see those two on the defensive side of the ball. And then as far as Ian Inman, he seems to be the widest of those guys, and I know he's listed on 24/7 as a small forward and listed on the roster as a guard/forward, so I know that he's expected to play a little bit more there, but yeah, he was didn't see too much from him, but yeah, he was there, and he may find some time. And then I did forget to talk about Andrew Crawford and Felix Caceres, but they kind of fit in with Holland and Inman, just as far as playing off the ball and trying to find their jump shot. I think that all those guys will impact on the defensive side of the ball, but Caceres didn't find too much from the perimeter, but Crawford was able to find some jump shots and knock them down. His jump shot, it still isn't the fastest thing in the world, but it seems definitely improved, and it's always gone up soft. So I'll be excited to see how he improves. But I'll be talking about him a little bit more later when it comes to the mailbag questions. But I know I'm jumping around between talking to about the freshmen and forgetting the returners and things. But one last thing I wanted to play about the freshmen was this Tad Boyle clip right here.
They're huge. They're huge. Because that's why this foreign trip for us is so important, because these guys are they're learning a lot right now, and the more time we can have with them on the court, the better they're going to be come November. I like their attentiveness. I love their competitiveness. They're a together group. Isaiah still hasn't been cleared yet. Hopefully that's going to happen the next day or two. He was late to graduate in California, so. But I love him. Coach Englehart has told me that it's the toughest group of freshmen, the most together group of freshmen that he's seen in the weight room since the Sean and Evan and McKinley group. So that's encouraging, because I got a lot of respect for him. He knows when guys are working hard. He knows when they're not, and this group does. So I think we're gonna need a couple of them at least to step up this year and help us. There's no doubt about it.
In filling that extra roster.
So yeah, obviously I'm not in the workout room with them, so I won't be able to talk to the work ethic and things like that. But obviously a good sign with Boyle, complimenting those guys and comparing them to Deshaun and McKinley and that recruiting class, given what they were able to do at Colorado. But it definitely lines up with what I said about how they physically appear, and how some of these guys like Josiah were able to get downhill. And I didn't talk about him as much when it came to the freshmen, just because I mentioned him with Malone, but he wasn't afraid to bang around with Malone and try and box him out, and didn't necessarily post up with him, because I don't think Taco has as many offensive moves outside of dunking the ball, which he had a few times, just on drop off passes and things like that. Maybe a layup if he's there, but he tried to step out and take a mid range, missed that, but I think he'll be a big impact on the defensive side of the ball. Just he had a few big swats with guys trying to get downhill, and I think he'll be good on the glass just because his motor is nonstop. It just keeps going. So obviously I just talked about Fawaz right there, but all these guys seem to be level-headed. I've as in my time covering Colorado, I've never talked to a guy where I've thought that where I haven't gotten the impression that he wasn't there for the right reasons and had not ulterior motives, but was was a distracted player that we so often see in sports nowadays with the distractions of money and sponsorships and stuff like that. All these guys are trying to do the right thing, and maybe that's just being media trained, but seeing this and constantly seeing that for a program, and then knowing that these guys are doing it to the incoming freshmen are outdoing the general expectation, I guess, is very promising in my opinion. But I talked about it a little bit earlier. Bangot Dak, he is injured. I knew that on Monday. Tweeted out on either Monday night or Tuesday, I forget which. But I was able to confirm that it was a leg injury. We saw him on crutches. Wasn't able to confirm exactly what. But he's not expected to go on the Australia trip, but is expected to be back by the preseason, or at least the start of the year. So that gives the impression that it's not too bad. And obviously, not an ACL or something like that. That'd be crazy to somehow injure that and then come back in just an off season. But obviously not the greatest thing. We know that he won't be able to necessarily make the improvements that we'd want to. But he was shooting jump shots and things like that, just getting form shooting. I'm sure he's in the weight room and things like that. I remember Tad mentioned that when I was talking with him. So we can be hopeful for Bangot, but I think that there will be two things that kind of stand out beyond just him not getting the reps and the potential improvement. But the first thing is that these guys, Bangot is going to be a big part of this team come season time, and that was a huge expectation. But so far, without him there, Nick Randall, and without John Manny and Isaiah Johnson, Nick Randall has had to play in practice a decent amount, a lot more than expected for a guy who's probably not going to see any time come season time. And I think that hurts the Buffs to some extent, as far as figuring out what everything will look like when the season starts, and how rotations will look like, figuring out lineups and whatnot. So it is good that there's a lot of conference play and stuff like that. But on the flip side of that, Taco, he has to figure things out, and Tad later on in that little scramble described Taco as drinking water from a fire hose with how much he's having to learn, and matching up with Malone every day, being the only guy to do so, with the Buffs still having two empty roster spots where they're expecting to fill with bigs, but still having yet to do that, and only having the two centers. Those guys are going at it and fighting the paint in the most physical position on the floor. And yeah, so there's good things. I think getting these guys more reps and getting them comfortable without one of the better players or expected better players on the team on the floor will be good. But I think it will kind of throw a wrench in just the preparation as far as figuring out rotations and lineups. Obviously, Bangot is going to have his rotation spot, an expected starting spot in my opinion. To be there, but come season time, once he's healed up. But it'll be interesting to see if guys will be as comfortable playing with him versus Sebastian Rancic versus Elijah Malone versus Taco Fawaz and things like that. At least from Bington Harris and John Manny and the freshmen and the guys who haven't been able to play with Bangot so far. But moving on from him, we got the non-conference schedule. Not going to talk too much about it just because I don't necessarily know how all these teams are looking, but there's a few games on the schedule that are notable for a few reasons. Obviously, Colorado State, the big one that everyone looks for every year, being played at Moby, but just going in chronological order. Besides that, Grace College in the exhibition, Elijah Malone's former school at the NAIA level. So, an NAIA program, so not expecting to see too much in the exhibition. But Malone won the NAIA National Player of the Year 2023-2024 that season with the Lancers in Grace College. They're from Indiana. So that'll be interesting to see him, play his old school in the exhibition. But Eastern Washington, Buffs played them last year, beat them in their season opener. Providence, Nate Tomlinson's old school. It's the beginning of a home and home series. So the Buffs will travel to play Providence next year at Providence. And former CU assistant Kim English is the head coach there. Nothing notable about Alabama State as far as I know. But UC Davis, the first, the Caceres series. We'll figure out opponents after that. Cal Baptist, not too sure any reasoning. Colorado State, we talked about that. UTSA, whatever. Portland State, whatever. Stanford, former Pac-12 competitor. Buffs will see them in Phoenix, Arizona, as part of the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame series. So that'll be fun. Seeing them play at a neutral ground against a team that we usually saw them play for the better part of the last 15 years. And then they finished up non-conference play with Northern Colorado, who was a co-conference champion last year. I think they won the regular season, tied for the regular season, making them the co-champion. But I know they didn't win the conference championship, not getting a March Madness bid. But yeah, either way, they did. They were solid last year. I'm not sure exactly who they're returning. I know Langston Reynolds, who you were looking at potentially in the transfer portal, isn't returning obviously, but yeah, Taboa's former school. So always interesting when the Golden Bears comes down. No, they're not the Golden Bears. That's Cal. But the Bears, they're just also blue and gold. But we'll dive into the mailbag right now and wrap this up. What positions am I optimistic / worried about? I kind of already answered this, but as far as what I'm optimistic about, the point guard position. That was a position that everyone was worried about last year, just in terms of taking care of the ball, as far as generating offense, as far as sparking offense. Even though I thought Julian Hammond did as best as he could, given his tools, it was definitely a struggle to some extent last year, or not to some extent. It was the worst year in Tadbo's tenure at the school. So it was definitely a struggle at the point guard position last season. And I think that having seen Barrington Hargis, obviously didn't watch him, the past 2 seasons, but having, looked at his highlight tape and seen his averages and his stats and, seeing how comfortable he was yesterday, I think, he'll definitely be, he'll probably be the best player for the Buffs, and I think that that holds down the point guard spot, especially with Josiah coming in behind him, who seems to be pretty solid, and I think will step up, just with, what I said about him. As far as the position I'm worried about, definitely that forward position, because I'm not sure how Bangot will come back from his injury. I'm not sure necessarily exactly how he'll be used, just because we've seen him split his time between the center and the power forward position. I'm not sure exactly how he'll be used. I'm assuming it'll be similar, just with the potential small ball lineups and double bigs and things like that. But I know the Buffs are trying to recruit more big men with their final 2 roster spots. So it'll probably end up being that Bangai and Ranchik will end up being the power forwards, and Ian Inman and Jalen Holland and Andrew Crawford and Felix Caceres are gonna end up being playing between the 2 and the 3, and so between the 3 and the 4, even though I think they can play solidly, and even though Tad's talked about how each player has a different game, and even though these guys are solid and working hard, it will be tough to match up at times, I think, especially with freshmen and retro freshmen, guys who haven't played as much at the college level, like John Manny and Felix Caceres. I think that will be tough. So definitely the 3-4 is where I'm worried the most. But I guess the 3 specifically, just at least because Sebastian Ranchik and Bangot Dak will be holding down the 4. But optimistic about the point guards, worried about the small forwards and what the 3 looks like, and I guess the 2 as well. This is the 2-3-4, and the middle is a little worried. But I was impressed with Malone and Fawaz and things. But from Paul Allen's card, I like that name. Does Tad's coaching style resonate with the new breed of players? I talked about this earlier. He stops the play a lot, but that's just kind of the nature of trying to teach things and install stuff, especially when guys are trying to learn so much about the college game and trying to improve so much. It's just talk with Jalen Holland. He's just talks about how much more nuanced the college game is in comparison to the high school game, and how much more detailed and focused everyone is on the things that they thought were they already had down fundamentally. And so I think Tad's very solid if you're willing to be coached, and if you're willing to get chewed out. If you're I think you need to be a good kid. I don't think you're going to be partying too much. I know he's had some some trouble with teams in the past few years, but definitely at the beginning of his tenure with some issues and things. But I don't think for the past 9 years there's really been a team that's had any issues. And yeah, I think that's just because he recruits good guys, and so I know that may not reach out to every single player who's entering the college atmosphere nowadays. With, like I talked about, with the money and NIL and sponsorships and the other distractions that come along with being a college basketball player nowadays. But that attitude has kind of always been around. At least with Tad Boyle being a college coach. I know I wasn't I was only 7 in 2010, but I'm sure guys were still just as still had big eyes, and were still just as greedy, being 19 years old, being a college athlete and getting so much fame. So I think Tad's style does resonate, especially with the fact that his coaching staff around him is solid, with Mike Rohn and Coach Greer and Coach Thomason and Evan Batty and Coach Manning and all those guys, like even the graduate assistants and student managers. Like, I don't know, they all seem solid from top to bottom, and yeah, I think even though it is old school, I think Tad does resonate with his players, and at least gets through to them for the most part. I think last year, even though he said he wasn't able to get through to his guys, that it was just more so a struggle with the players translating stuff from practice to the game than him not being able to get through to them. But I think his style does resonate for the most part, even though it is old school. But the next question: who will be the R.J. Smith replacement? If I had to pick, I know it is R.J. Smith was a red shirt and Andrew Crawford is a red shirt. But if I had to pick, I think Andrew Crawford is the best to be that candidate. Slightly different body types. R.J. was a little smaller. Seemed to be a little bit more athletic and a little bit wider, so seemed to be better on the defensive end. But I think they have the potential to be just as good as shooters. Obviously, RJ was kind of up and down between his insane start to the year shooting the ball and then cooling down in conference play and then heating up in the conference tournament. But I think Crawford has the chance to come off the bench and be a shooting spark, especially from the perimeter, and still be solid on the defensive end. I think all the freshmen in Caceres and John Manny all have the potential to do that as well. But I don't know. I don't think Caceres is that solid of a shooter, and I think it would be a little bit harder for the other guys to necessarily put it together and fit in within Colorado's culture and their style. Given the fact that Crawford has been here for a year and been playing scout team, and even though he has been playing actual games, I think it's beneficial with the fact that for the most part he was the star opposing point guard, acting as such on the scout team, and having the chance to kind of be the guy in practice a little bit against against the first string. So if I had to pick, I think Andrew Crawford would be the R.J. Smith replacement, but namely for the 3-point production with the potential of being a solid defender. And who looks better than advertised? I think Elijah Malone and Taco Fawaz. I think those are the two that I think that everyone are kind of sleeping on. I know Taco, he's a 4-star, but people haven't talked about him as much. They've just focused on the fact that Colorado's recruited so many guards, and I don't know. I think Taco will be a very big piece of the rotation this year, and will get some quite some solid minutes, and potentially may even find himself in the starting lineup if Malone starts to struggle. But at the same time, I think Malone, given how how talented he was at the NAIA level. Obviously, it's not, Big 12 is an NAIA, but we saw Malone get a lot more comfortable down the stretch of the season. And when you watch his NAIA tape, he was hitting those mid-ranges and those three-point shots and passing the ball a little bit more. And for how big he is crafty. Like, he'll put the ball behind his back while going towards the rim or hitting a Euro step or something that a guy of his size shouldn't necessarily be able to do. And I think we'll see a little bit more of that this year. So I think those guys both look better than advertised and will have better years than maybe expected. And then I think beyond that, I think Jalen Holland, I think Josiah Sanders will be the best of the freshmen, even with what I said about Fawaz. But I think Jalen Holland, also being a 4-star as well. Not consensus like Josiah, but I'm not even sure if Josiah was consensus either. But either way, not being as highly ranked, I think Holland, given how strong he is and seeming to have a decent jump shot, will looks better than not better than advertised, but I think will be more highly regarded than people think so far. And then to wrap it up, I know this episode is going just as long as the last one, even though I was hoping it wouldn't. But do I think the crowd will be stronger this year? They showed up 2 years ago, but the students were not good. From Rocky Mountain Buff, this dude, shout out to him, man. He's been following my stuff and interact with my stuff a bunch, like a lot of you guys have. But this dude, he's been going crazy. I feel like every time I get notifications from Rocky Mountain Buff. But anyway, will the crowd be stronger this year? I'm not sure. I think it would definitely will struggle, given the fact that they'll the Buffs are coming off a record bad year last season. I think that will be a big struggle for them, just in that aspect, as far as the Buffs themselves pulling crowds and things like that. It's definitely tough that the CSU game is at Moby this year, and the Buffs won't have that crowd. And there's no Travis Hunter to win a Heisman game and carry the crowd when the Buffs are playing the worst team they faced all year in Belmont. So I don't think the crowd will be as solid, but of course that to get a solid crowd, you need to be a solid team. And I think if the Buffs start winning some games and can kind of bounce back a little bit, they could definitely start filling the seats a little bit more, especially with the fact that the Big 12. The Pac-12 was talented and had some, high caliber players, but the Big 12 is just so notable, and especially with the fact that, Houston, returned a bunch from their national championship runner-up team, but also adding a bunch of 5-stars. Obviously, Kansas will bring a lot of attention, when they come to town. But yeah, I'm trying to remember exactly what the conference. I can look real quick at the conference opponents. I have my Twitter right here, because this could depend. But like BYU isn't coming to town, so like no AJ DeBonta, which kind of sucks. So that's a guy who usually fills some seats, and things like that. But Texas Tech is coming to town, so JT Toppin. Every year there's some notable guys who are NBA draft caliber and NBA lottery caliber. In AJ DeBonta's case, potential number 1 overall pick. Looking early at the draft for next year. Knowing that this year's draft hasn't even happened yet. This year's Game 7 hasn't even happened yet. That's happening tomorrow. By the time this episode drops. So yeah, I think that's everything for this episode. I'm hoping to gather some more with next week's practices. There will be 3 next week, so I'll be able to get a little bit more. Of course, I'll get to talk to some more guys. Write a little bit more stories. I have a story dropping soon. Talking a little bit more about the height on the team and things like that. But I really want to see more from this team and try and get a better idea of what these freshmen are really bringing and really that what the freshmen are bringing and what Caceres and Crawford are bringing, and really figuring out more from that 2-3. the 2-3 spot in the lineup. What they will be bringing. Just because, there's no definitive person at the moment like there is at at the point guard, power forward, and center positions. But we'll see if I can gather some more things, see some more individual drills, or if guys emerge more in the 5v5 runs in the practices next week. But maybe we'll have some recruiting news with obviously Leonardo Van Elswyk was on the official visit, so maybe we'll hear some from him. I don't know. I know that Colorado was trying to hear from another recruit. Still haven't figured out a name on that. But, with Tad saying they're trying to get potentially 1 or 2 more bigs, we'll have to see if they do end up using the 2 more spots, even though they weren't sure about using all 15 roster spots anyways. But at this point, I'm really yapping. And shout out to everybody that has listened this far. I hope that I was able to give a little bit of a better, outlook on the team and give some better impressions of the team. But like I keep saying, I'll learn more next week. And I really need to wrap this up. I'm pretty tired, but appreciate you guys for watching. My name is Oliver Hayes with another episode of In the Heyday, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.